Welcome to the Milk Making Minutes. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh. This week, I am going to discuss how you can increase your milk output while pumping. This is a question I get asked a lot as a lactation consultant, so let's get into it. When I began breastfeeding, I was blindsided by how difficult it was. I may have thought I was prepared, but having known only a handful of people who had ever breastfed and only seeing it up close from a couple of them, I had a huge learning curve. Since then, I've become a doula, a lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, and I welcome you to the Milk Making Minutes, where we explore breastfeeding experiences through the lens of systemic barriers, so that you know your breastfeeding struggles are not your fault, and your triumphs really are the miracles you feel they are. The first thing that you need to know about increasing your milk output is that pumping is hormonal, or milk supply in general is hormonal. We know that the primary hormones that drive milk production are prolactin and oxytocin. Prolactin is the hormone that signals your body to create milk. When your breasts are stimulated, prolactin is released into the bloodstream. The release of prolactin into the bloodstream signals your body to make milk. So that is why we always say that pumping is based on a supply and demand. Your body won't make milk if you have not stimulated your breasts through pumping, breastfeeding, or hand expression. If the prolactin isn't released, then the body won't make milk. And if the body doesn't make milk, then more prolactin isn't released. So the more prolactin is in your bloodstream, the more your body will make milk. And so that is why we say the number one way to increase your supply is to breastfeed or pump as frequently as possible. The second hormone that is really important for breast milk production is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone which signals your milk ducts to release the milk. And so if you have milk in your milk ducts, but the oxytocin is not being released from the pituitary gland to release the milk, then you're not going to be able to pump or feed your baby the milk. Sometimes oxytocin cannot be released because there is a third hormonal player when it comes to breast milk production, and that is cortisol. We are all familiar with cortisol as the stress hormone. Cortisol directly interferes with milk releasing. So cortisol directly interferes with the release of oxytocin. So if cortisol is streaming through your body, then it is going to send a signal to the pituitary gland not to release the oxytocin. So that's why we always say it's really important to reduce your stress as much as possible while pumping or breastfeeding, because if you reduce the amount of cortisol in your body, that allows the oxytocin to release so that you can get the milk flowing. So when you are carving out time to breastfeed or to pump, it's really important to try to set the mood to have a low stress environment. So play your favorite music in your earbuds, think about your favorite things, reserve that time for your favorite snack or treat, your favorite chocolate, your favorite tea, your favorite coffee. Make it as stress-free as possible. Secondly, I always tell people to only pump for as long as the milk is flowing. So if the milk stops flowing and is only dripping into the phalange, stop pumping. It is way better to pump more frequently for less time in a given sitting than to pump for longer periods of time with less milk coming into the bottles, but less frequently. So if the milk stops flowing and you're just getting dripping into the bottles, and when you try to switch it back into the massage mode, what some people call the bacon mode on the spectra, because it has those wavy lines, it's the faster mode on your pump. If you switch it back to that faster massage mode and you cannot get the milk to release again within a couple of minutes, turn the pump off and come back to it later. Do you love to read about pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding? Are you looking for books to help you become a more confident parent? Or perhaps books to help you understand what went wrong with your breastfeeding journey or to do better next time with breastfeeding? Or do your kids have questions about breastfeeding or pregnancy, but you don't really know how to answer them? Would you prefer to have a curated list on these topics? Go to the link in the show notes to my new affiliated bookshop. Every purchase you make benefits the Milk Making Minutes. But better than that, these books are vetted. I've read them all, and I feel very confident recommending them to you. I'll be adding to them continuously, so go to that link when you want to purchase a book. It will help the show, and you can feel confident it will be a purchase you will enjoy. Thirdly, if you never get sprays of milk, if you're listening to this and you are thinking, milk only ever drips into the bottles for me, I'm never getting big sprays of milk, it is highly likely that you need smaller phalanges. The phalange is the part of the pump that fits on your breast, and the vast majority of people are in phalanges that are too big. If you were sized in the hospital, you're probably in a size that is too big. If you were never sized at all, you are probably in a size that is too big. If you're using one of the standard 24 or 28 millimeter phalanges, if it's around those two sizes, you are probably in a size that is too big. There is now a shift in lactation practice when it comes to advising about phalange size. We used to say, don't allow any nipple rubbing in the tunnel of the phalange. But now we are seeing that when folks choose a size that allows for slight nipple rubbing and use a food grade lubricant like olive oil or coconut oil, they feel way more comfortable during pumping and they get way more milk output. There should be no areola entering the tunnel at all. Those of us who have started advising this are now seeing that most people need between a size 13 millimeter phalange and a size 21 millimeter phalange. So many times what will happen is someone will be in a phalange that is way too big and the areola enters the tunnel and the areola starts to swell and it actually looks like the nipple is rubbing on the side and then it looks like the phalange is way too small, and then that person sizes up and sizes up and sizes up. In reality, it's because the areola is rubbing and it's not the nipple that is rubbing. So it's really important to get into a small enough size. Some people need bigger than those 13 to 21 millimeter sizes, but most do not. It is really easy to find the size 13 millimeter to size 21 millimeter phalanges. You can order them on Amazon. You can also get them from the same supplier you got your breast pump from. So if you have insurance and you ordered your breast pump through a breast pump supplier, you can typically get your insurance to pay for one more set of phalanges. And you can do this by calling the supplier, asking them to send a prescription to your primary care provider or to your OBGYN saying that you need a different phalange size. They will send the prescription to the breast pump supplier and then they can ship it out to you. But if you are not able to get that done or you don't have insurance coverage or you don't want to spend the time doing that, it's a pretty nominal cost, about $12 to $15 to get the right set of phalanges. And I will put a sizing guide in the show notes by a colleague that is here in Massachusetts. Her name is Jeanette Messett-Frem, and she is the owner of a company called Babies in Common, and she teaches a lot of other IBCLCs and lactation professionals how to properly do phalange sizings, as well as teaching classes to pumping people themselves. So I hope that you now understand some really simple ways that you can try to increase your pumping output. If this has been helpful to you, please share it with somebody else who might be stressed out about milk supply so that they can decrease their cortisol, increase their oxytocin, and get the milk flowing. So to review, the best way to increase milk output is to remember that milk is based on a hormonal response, and so to act accordingly. 2, only pump for as long as the milk is flowing, and it is better to have shorter sessions more frequently than to have really long sessions with milk just dripping. And 3, make sure that your phalanges are properly sized. If you would like to join a community of people who are talking about breastfeeding struggles and the ways they are caused by societal structures, join my Milk Making Minutes community group on Facebook. You'll hear from me in another few days with another episode featuring another amazing person who shares their breastfeeding story.